Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Psycho trilogy review slash overview. I've done more in-depth individual reviews of all of these books, so if this is the first time you're seeing me talk about them, you could go back and find me talking about each one a little bit more individually. But I'll give an overview. I'll touch up on each of them first. With the very first Psycho book. Book one was okay. There's lots of better books, honestly, but for fans of the film, I'd say it's worth it just to see where the story comes from. Norman isn't as sympathetic or interesting. That's really the biggest difference from the book to the movie. That and like 99% of the dialogue in the book is not used. Like, it's like the same exact story, except like all the dialogue is different. The part with Marion Crane, that's only vaguely shown with just her thoughts in the book, whereas in the movie it's a lot more fleshed out. So it's like really like 95% like the same thing from book to movie, but the movie is so much better. The movie is so much better. Like, this book is it's okay. Like I said, there's so many better books out there, so I'd say if you're just like looking for a really good book to read, you could probably skip Psycho unless you're just like a crazy big fan of the movies like I am. Hitchcock said that when he adapts a movie, he or adapts a book to a movie, he'll read the book twice and throw it away. Like, thank you, Hitch, because like if they kept like the dialogue in this thing, if they were trying to be like as faithful to the book as possible, it would have been really bad. Like, the changes were small, the changes were few, but they were really good, and it made it go from okay to one of the greatest movies you've ever seen. As far as book two is actually much better written. It's better written. And I guess that's what happens when you go 20 years between, writing a book. Psycho was, it wasn't that it was poorly written. It was just that it wasn't like the greatest. Like, when you're used to like this Hitchcock movie, this incredible movie, then you read the book, like it really pales in comparison. But 20 years later, Robert Bloch got a lot better at writing, and Psycho 2, I really love this book. I wasn't, entirely, like, okay, it's not entirely what you'd expect. I went into it with just a little bit of knowledge, just knowing that it had to do with a film being made based on, the events that happened in book one. And so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect with all that. It was a little bit different than what I sort of imagined, but it still had a really good twist. Because, I'm not holding back spoilers in here. There are going to be spoilers for this, so if you wanted to go into this blind, just cut out now, this is your chance. Okay, you had your chance, and I'm going to get into spoilers. There's hardly any Norman in this book. I like the story, but I wish he were kept around, and that we could have, I think I'll get into that. I was going to say something about book three, something that, between these two books. But, this book, it is really good, though. It is really good. Just don't go into it expecting, like, Norman's going to be on every page. Like, you're going to get more Norman. That's really the only, like, disappointing part is, like, you get Norman for, like, 2 chapters, and then he dies, and it's sort of like, you don't know, like, oh, is he behind all these killings? Because, like, he escapes the sanitarium, and then he ends up getting killed by a hitchhiker he picks up. Long story, I go more in depth in the single review of this book, but basically, the people that were on the case, like they're investigating now, like what could be happening. Like, Norman was headed for the movie set, and so there, a lot of deaths are happening, and it turns out the killer is the dude we've been pretty much following the whole time for like 80% of the book. And I think it was a really good twist. I think it was very well written. But if you were expecting like a lot of Norman, like, you don't really get it. Like, I was by the time I was like, I don't know, 100 pages in, and Norman hasn't been shown for a while, I was like, something's going on here. I was like, something's going on. Like, come on, guys, where's Norman? Because I was really hoping we'd see him do these kills, and we're getting like, I got to like here, I'm like, I guess we don't get to see Norman do these kills, but I guess he's the one doing them, and it'll be, a cool ending. Maybe he'll come back at the end. Nope, it was not Norman, and it is revealed he died because the hitchhiker he picked up But it was a really solid book. Now, when we get to book three, I'm wondering, what could they do now that Norman's dead? And it's called Psycho House. And so the premise of this, like, I made a rant review yesterday. I really hate this book. The premise of this is basically some dude is the Psycho house originally, was burned down, whatever. This dude had it rebuilt. Now it's full of animatronics and stuff. And in the first chapter, a girl gets murdered in there after she and her friend, break in. They want to see the house. The book starts and it's a day or two away from opening day, and with that premise of, okay, a chick died, and now it's like, okay, so are they going to investigate the house? Are there going to be a lot more murders in the house? Is, the whole, it's called Psycho House. Is it going to take place in the house? It doesn't take place in the house. What you get instead is this chick that writes true crime. She comes to Fairvale and she just goes around conducting these super boring interviews the whole time about the events from book one, and somewhat touches on book two. One of the doctors from book two is in book three, and that was sort of interesting to see him back, but he's hardly in it. And oh boy, I just, I gave a little bit more of my thoughts in the end of my review about this book yesterday of what I would have done, but I would have just imagined, like, it's called Psycho House. It's reopened. Maybe we would follow people staying in the house. It's a tourist attraction. Maybe we'll see a lot more mystery surrounding the house. Maybe there'll be sort of like, is it haunted? Is it not haunted? Is it some killer, that's doing all this stuff? Like, you would think like they'd do something with the house, but no, hardly ever are we in the house. Like, rarely, like once in this whole book. Like in chapter one, we're in the house. Like, I can't stand it. I can't stand book three. Now, I think personally, look, Psycho takes place in like 1959. Psycho 2 takes place in like 1980 or 81 or 82, something like that, like early 80s. Why on earth did we not just have, a prequel to book 2, sequel to book 1, right there in the insane asylum? Like, I don't understand. There's all this time. There's 20 years here. Like, I really appreciate this book, taking place 20 years later and trying to do something different. Like, it's basically Robert Bloch just like yelling at Hollywood the whole time. He's talking about how much he hates Hollywood. I guess I'm just theorizing, maybe because people love the movie Psycho more than the book, and most people maybe don't even know it's a book. I don't know if he's jealous from that. I'm sure he got a good payday. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But, like, I really appreciate this book. I really love it. Like I said, it's much better written than book one. I think I prefer book 2 to book 1, but why wouldn't he just make like a book that goes in between these? Like, it could have been like, I don't even know what he could have called it, but he could have called it something like Psycho 1.5 or something, and it could have been between these books. We could have got some insane asylum craziness, like, who knows what'll go on in an insane asylum. That's a question I ask myself often because I've written a comic book about an insane asylum. It's down below in the description if you guys want to buy it. It's called Asyle. It's about a lady hunted by Dracula in an insane asylum. It's written by me, drawn by Vic King, if you guys want to buy it. But enough shilling for now. Enough shilling. I'll just touch on these books a little bit more here in the last couple minutes of this. But, oh boy, the less I say about Psycho House, probably the better. Because I already did like a 10-minute rant on it, and I really hate it. But, I mean, overall, like, if I want to give my overall thoughts on this trilogy, I mean, pretty much everybody is a fan of the movie Psycho. And I love the sequels as well that they did in the 80s and I think 90s as well. Like, they're those are really good. And if you're a fan of those, I would say at least check out the first book. Like, I think any fan of the Psycho movies should check out the first book. But if you're someone that hasn't seen the movies or doesn't really care about the movies, I don't know how you wouldn't care about them. But if you don't, let's say you don't, I would say, there's a lot of better books you could read. Like, go read Rosemary's Baby or something, or The Exorcist, or When Darkness Loves Us. Like, there's plenty of great books out there you could read, but I'd say only pick up book 1 if you're a fan of the movies, and I would say only pick up book 2 if you're just curious about it. Like, I know I spoiled it in this video and in my single review of this book, but if you guys are curious, though, I'd say go ahead and pick up Psycho 2, but I really can't say pick up Psycho 3. I know people, when you say, oh, don't pick it up, it's garbage, people want to go see the garbage, but trust, it's not so bad, it's good. I can recognize it's so bad, it's good, pick it up. There are books I like and movies I like, and where it's like, oh, it's so bad, so bad it's good, but it's not this. Trust me, this ain't it, fam. This ain't it. Psycho House is super trash, guys. So, I mean, I know it's a little like middle of the road, my answer here, but it just really depends. If you like the movie, I'd say it's worth it to see where the story comes from. But if you like Psycho 2, the movie, I absolutely love Psycho 2, the movie. It's way better than Psycho 2, the book. But I mean, if you're just curious about like how, this world is and you want to see, what sort of happens in book 2, I mean, if you're curious about it, I'd say go ahead. But just really avoid Psycho House. I can't stress that enough. And if you guys are still looking for more books to read, of course, there's my books on Amazon. I have 4 novels and a short story collection on Amazon right now. The links are all down in the description. Have a great day, guys. Peace.